listening to the DolphinsTalk.com podcast, the most listened to daily Miami Dolphins podcast on the internet.
Miami's got the Dolphins, the greatest of all.
Come on, Dolphins fans. Time to fins up.
We're in the air, we're on the ground, we're always in control. And when you say Miami, you're talking Super Bowl. Cause we're the Miami Dolphins, Miami Dolphins, Miami Dolphins number one. Miami Dolphins, Miami Dolphins, Miami Dolphins number one.
Good afternoon, Miami Dolphins fans. How are you today? And thank you for listening to the DolphinsTalk.com podcast on this Wednesday, August the 28th. I am your host, Mike Oliva. Flying solo today as we have a lot to talk about in the world of the Miami Dolphins. A bunch more roster moves were made. There was a waiver claim made. There was a cut made. Chris Grier spoke to the press today. Got a lot to talk about there. We have so much to talk about. But before we get to that, just a reminder that today's show is brought to you by Caneswear. Caneswear is the place to go for officially licensed apparel for the Miami Dolphins, the Miami Heat, the Hurricanes, your Stanley Cup champion Florida Panthers, and all of the professional and college teams in South Florida. Looking for the latest jersey, a gift, or the newest hat to hit the market for your favorite South Florida team? Check out Caneswear for their overwhelming selection of sports apparel. Located at 2655 South University Drive in Davie, Florida, Caneswear has it all. Not in South Florida? Don't worry. Visit Caneswear.com to shop their inventory from the comfort of your home. And yes, they ship internationally as well. Caneswear.com is the spot that Miami fans shop. That's Caneswear.com. Caneswear.com. Also, before we start, shout out for Dolphins Talk Extra. If you haven't signed up yet, what the heck are you waiting for? Go to patreon.com/Dolphins Talk. It's either $3 or $5 a month. Private message board where you're not going to get screamed at and yelled at on social media if you have an unpopular opinion. We have extra podcast, bonus podcast. We got, what else we got? We got some interactive shows coming up, fantasy leagues, pick'em leagues, survivor leagues with really cool prizes we're giving away to the winners. So check out Dolphins Talk Extra. We're going to have watch-alongs later in the year where you can watch games with us live in the moment in real time, even pop on with us. So you're going to want to see all that stuff. So check out Dolphins Talk Extra, patreon.com/Dolphins Talk. All right, let's get to the news of the day. So the Miami Dolphins trimmed their roster to 53 men on Tuesday, and on Wednesday they put in their waiver claim. They got somebody, and we're going to talk about all that. So first, the Miami Dolphins put in a waiver claim, and they got wide receiver Grant Dubose from the Green Bay Packers. He was cut by the Packers. He's been active for one NFL game ever, which was Week 18 last year. Spent 17 weeks last year on the Packers practice squad, was a 7th-round pick of the Packers last year. Grant Dubose is mainly known as a run-blocking wide receiver and special teams guy, not really known as a great pass catcher of any kind. So Grant Dubose is now in Miami, and to add him, they had to cut someone from the roster. So they released, in a bit of a shocker to many, offensive guard Jack Driscoll, who they signed from the Eagles this year, and who, if Aaron Brewer can't play week 1, Jack Driscoll was going to be your right guard starter. So we thought he was let go. Jack Driscoll no longer a member of the Dolphins. I'm going to talk more about that later. So practice squad, that was the only waiver claim they put in of the only change. So Jack Driscoll gone. Grant Dubose is here. The practice squad, here's who they have signed at the time I am recording. There are still more names to come. Linebacker Daquan Jackson, who was with them this training camp. They signed him in early August. They signed him to the practice squad. Nick Needham, brought back to the practice squad. Hayden Rucci, brought back to the practice squad. Safety Jordan Colbert, who we had on this podcast back in May. They kept him, signed him to the practice squad. Jonathan Harris, who was let go, signed to the practice squad. Naquan Jones, nose tackle, was with Arizona in camp. Miami, they got him not to sign with Arizona, and they convinced him to sign with Miami to be a nose tackle on the practice squad. They got Eric Izakamo, brought him back to the practice squad. Offensive tackle Byron Matos, they talked to him. He's back on the practice squad. Isaiah Johnson, the corner, who I was very surprised no team claimed, Thankfully, no team claimed him. He is back here on the practice squad. Then, 2 more guys were signed to the practice squad. Wide receiver, kick returner, Dwayne Eskridge. Let's talk a little bit here about Dwayne Eskridge, former second-round pick in 2021 of the Seattle Seahawks, and has been a total bust. Just calling it what it is. But he can also return kicks. And I think it's more than just being a wide receiver. The fact he can return kicks. Since he's been in the league, in those 2021, 2022, 2023, only 17 receptions ever, only 122 yards ever, and 1 touchdown. And last season, he had 0 receptions last season. So there's a reason Dwayne Eskridge, I'm calling him a bust. I'm not doing it to be mean. I'm just saying when you're picked in round 2, and in 3 years, you got 17 receptions, 0 last year, you're a bust. But he's here in Miami. We'll see wide receiver depth on the practice squad. And then in a move it's not anything to get upset over, but it's damn head-scratching. Dolphins are going to sign a 3rd quarterback. We all knew that. Someone to put on the practice squad. There is a plethora of options out there, and they were in talks, and it still might happen, because the Cleveland Browns are carrying 4 quarterbacks, and they're trying to trade at least one. And there was a report from someone in Cleveland that the Miami Dolphins are one of many teams to call the Browns about quarterback Tyler Huntley, who played with the Ravens. I think Cleveland signed him this offseason, but they have so many quarterbacks, they don't know what to do with them all. So they're trying to trade 1 or 2 of them. Winston's on the trade block as well. But Miami called them about Huntley, so something could happen. But since that trade hasn't happened at the time I'm recording, they signed Tim Boyle as a practice squad quarterback. So Tim Boyle's on the practice squad. Again, it's a practice squad quarterback. Who cares at the end of the day? But there is a reality to who they signed. Tim Boyle is not good at football. And if he was the guy who Miami faced when they played the Jets last year on Black Friday, who threw the Hail Mary pass that Javon Holland ran back 100 yards for a touchdown. He started 5 games in his NFL career. He's 0-5. He's got 4 touchdowns, 12 interceptions. His career passer rating is 55.2. If you're asking why or how this guy's in the league, I'll give you the short answer. Now, I don't know why he's in Miami. I have an answer that they said. I don't believe it, though. Well, yeah, I do believe it because it's Miami. Tim Boyle is best friends with Aaron Rodgers. And Tim Boyle was with Aaron Rodgers with the Packers. And when Aaron Rodgers went to the Jets, Aaron Rodgers told the Jets, you're signing Tim Boyle. And the Jets, because it's the Jets, signed Tim Boyle. And Tim Boyle was with the Jets last year, hence how he got into the game, because Rodgers obviously gets hurt week 1. He's out. Zach Wilson was just awful. The Jets had to take him off the field, threw their arms in the air, go, okay, Tim, you got to play, I guess. He played a couple games last year. Then he was so awful. So awful. The Jets were like, Zach, you got to go back. You got to go back in. I know the fans hate you. I know the players on this team hate you, but we can't watch Tim Boyle for like 1 more minute. So the answer was that Mike McDaniel likes Tim Boyle. That's great. Again, 3rd quarterback. Do I really care at the end of the day? No, but Tim Boyle shouldn't be in the NFL on any team. With all the options out there of players they could have signed to be a 3rd quarterback. The fact that they signed Tim Boyle is head scratching to say the least. And it is funny that Chris Grier already pointed out, Mike McDaniel likes him. Okay. So if, God forbid, he ever has to play and something goes bad, hey, not me. He wanted him. Nobody's a master at that. So, yeah, that's kind of the news. And also, Blake Ferguson went on social media and said he's pretty much back. I don't know if he was brought back to the practice squad or brought back to the active roster. I think the active roster, meaning the Dolphins are going to have to drop somebody if it is the active roster, which it sounds like it would be. Someone's got to be a long snapper. So I don't know who they're going to drop. Be an interesting. Could it be Storm Duck? Maybe. Could it be Andrew Meyer or Andrew Meyer? Maybe. Could it be Tanner Connor? If I had to bet a buck, I bet it's Tanner Connor because I don't think they need 4 tight ends. But Blake Ferguson said he's back. Let's get to this press conference that Chris Grier had with the media. A lot of good information here. He said Odell Beckham is very close to returning. That Odell wanted to play week 1, but that the team and then that the organization made a call to put him on PUP. But Odell's very close and he wanted to play. So there's that. He said in the past 24 hours or so, many teams called him trying to trade for cornerback Ethan Bonner. He refused. So he had offers for Ethan Bonner from a lot of teams. He didn't want to trade him. He was asked if this is a Super Bowl roster. Chris Grier said he feels very confident about the roster and where they are. He was asked if he's worried because Mike White signed with the Bills on Tuesday evening, if he was concerned with Mike White signing with the Bills and sharing intel on the Miami Dolphins before they play in a couple weeks in week 2. Chris Grier said he's not concerned. Honestly, I agree with him on that. The Buffalo Bills are 13-2 against the Dolphins the last 15 times they've played. They don't need intel on the Dolphins. Whatever they're doing is working. When you're 13-2 in the last 15 meetings, you don't need Mike White to tell you what the Dolphins are doing. Clearly, the Buffalo Bills know how to handle the Dolphins. Then we get to the offensive line talk. And it was actually the first question asked. I'm just saving it to the end. He was asked if Isaiah Wynn's going to play this season because he's hurt last October. They re-signed him when they didn't have to. And everyone sort of penciled him in as a starting left guard. Then he's on PUP, misses all training camp. On PUP, going to miss at least the first 4 weeks. Mike McDaniel a few weeks ago said his quad injury is one of the more severe ones. So it's a horrible situation, which made people question, what the hell did you sign this guy for? So when Chris Grier was asked if Isaiah Wynn's going to play this year, he said, that's the plan. We'll see. Well, if he just said that's the plan, okay, that's the plan, and he'll come back from this. When you throw in the we'll see, that throws in a lot of doubt. And a lot of people have doubt now if Wynn's actually going to play this year. And I'm not just talking about fans. I'm talking about esteemed media members in the South Florida community. They're like, he did not sound very confident at all saying, we'll see at the end of his sentence. So if Isaiah Wynn plays this year, who the heck knows? I wouldn't bet on it. Then he spoke about the offensive line. And I could read you the quote, but it wouldn't do justice to how he answered the question. So I'm going to play, if you're on YouTube, the video clip. If you're listening in audio form, you're going to hear it, the audio of how Chris Grier answered the question when asked about the offensive line. If, because most people thought, your guard and your center spots are a hot mess right now. No Wynn, no Aaron Brewer at the moment. You just cut Jack Driscoll. Did you put any claims in on the center? Did you put any claims in on the guard? What are you doing? And this was his answer.
Yeah, so it's always interesting because Mike and I were talking about this the other day that with the offensive line, how every year that's, you guys are like, oh, we're not good enough. But then offensively, we're a pretty good offense the last 2 years. And a number of you guys have talked about how the guys have improved. Those guys on the offensive line have worked their tails off. We feel confident in them. The coaching staff believes in them. And Butch and Mike and Frank have done a great job, and Lem, and helping those guys develop and work. And so I think the important thing is they all work together. It's a really cohesive unit, and just watching them work together is great every day. They hang out together, so it's a very close-knit unit. That said, yeah, we'll have someone in the practice squad like we always do. And just for your information, we released Jack Driscoll recently because we claimed Grant Dubose wide receiver, and so that was the roster move for him. Jack's a good kid, worked his tail off. It's just unfortunately a numbers crunch for us. But we're confident in the offensive line. So again, it's just one of those. It's Mike and I we always kind of chuckle. I know you guys made a joke about me saying that you guys are more worried about it than we are. But internally, that's how we feel about our group here as a team. The defense.
Yeah, so, as you're a fan who supports a team that hasn't won a playoff game in 24 years, hasn't won the AFC East since 2008, part of the reason is because their offensive line is bad. And if anyone, people in the media, fans question this, they're sitting behind the scenes laughing at you. They have a good chuckle about it. We've had a pretty good offense. Great, you have a pretty good offense. How does that help you win? As I've been saying on previous week's shows, every good team they played last year that they lost to except for the Cowboys one. They scored 20 points once. Once. Why? Because they can't block anybody. When they get in cold, wet, rainy weather, and you can't run this passing, timing-based finesse offense, you can't be physical enough to win. The arrogance in that answer is just a lot to take from a guy who's been with the organization for 24 years and has never seen a playoff win on his watch in whatever role he's been in 24 years. The Kansas City Chiefs went to the Super Bowl versus Tom Brady, lost. Why did they lose? Anyone who watched the game knows. Their offensive line got pushed around, beat up. Pat Mahomes was on his back more than a cheap whore. And what did the Chiefs do? That offseason, rebuilt the whole goddamn offensive line in one offseason. And then what happened? They won back-to-back Super Bowls, and now they're going for a three-peat. But for Chris Grier, we have a pretty good offense. I don't know why you guys are so worried about this. Me and Mike McDaniel, we have a good chuckle about this behind the scenes. We're laughing back there. We don't know why you guys are nervous. The arrogance and ego with nothing on his resume to back it up is just really tough to stomach. It's just really tough to stomach. So that's his answer on the offensive line. If you're worried, don't be. They got a pretty good offense. No, pretty good. Pretty good. Don't win anything with it. Win a bunch of games. Don't win a division. Don't win a playoff game. It's, we got a pretty good offense. Why are you guys asking about this offensive line? Sure, the center I signed, he's already hurt. Sure, the guy who I signed to be left guard, I just answered, might not play this year. Maybe we're hoping that's the plan. I don't know if he's going to play this year. Sure, the guy signed from the Eagles to be a possible starter at right guard or be the first guy off the bench in Jack Driscoll. Yeah, I just cut him too. So we lost Robert Hunt. We lost Connor Williams. I signed Wynn, who might not play this year. Possible, maybe, who knows when. We just cut Jack Driscoll. And the center I signed, who's a downgrade from the last guy we had, might not play weeks 1 or 2 because his hand's broken. It happens, but we're fine. The same guys who ended last year, who couldn't score versus the Ravens, who couldn't score versus the Bills, and then got embarrassed versus the Chiefs in the playoffs, the Lester Cottons, Robert Jones, Liam Eichenbergs, yeah, they're the answer. The guys who are the reason you couldn't beat good teams last year and were backups last year, thrust into starting roles. Yeah, now we've elevated. Talk about failing up. We've elevated them to starters. And why are you asking us about any of this stuff? Don't be worried. We're back there laughing, having a good chuckle at you guys who are all nervous. Give me a break. I often say, Elaine, don't pee on my leg and tell me it's raining. Seriously, do not pee on my leg and tell me it's raining. And I know there are people out there, smart people, who work for big outlets, media outlets, or big online publications, who write blogs, who have podcasts, who say should not be worried about this offensive line. That's all well and good. Tell me what, it's like, why shouldn't we be nervous? If you want to, again, if they're going to run the PFF stats and ESPN Next Gen stats and spin this stuff where it's, this, that, and the other, look, we're number one offense. Great. Number one offense. What did it get you? Didn't get you nowhere. Couldn't score in the playoffs. Couldn't score week 18. Couldn't score week 70, whatever. We couldn't score versus anybody. Okay? When it mattered. Sure, you'll run it up versus the Carolina Panthers and Tyreek can do a flip in the end zone and everyone can have a laugh then. Oh, that's great. We beat the Panthers. We beat the Patriots twice. We beat the Jets, who were horrible last year. We beat them twice. We beat the Giants. They stunk. Oh, those days are fun. Those days are great. Sundays, the post-game shows, everyone's having fun. That's a blast those weeks. Play the Chiefs, play the Eagles, play the Ravens, play the Bills. What happens then with your great offensive line? It poops the bed. You need dude wipes, okay? That's what happens. So that was his answer. And I got more to say on Chris Grier about a lot of things. But first, I want to give a shout-out to everyone listening from finheaven.com. Everyone go to finheaven.com, the largest Miami Dolphins message board on the internet. Also, a shout-out to our good friends at the I Am a Miami Dolphins Fan Facebook page run by the great and talented Carlos Hernandez. If you're on Facebook, please be sure you are part of the I Am a Miami Dolphins Fan Facebook page. They are the best Facebook page if you are a fan of the Dolphins. And wherever you're listening to this podcast, whether it's Apple Podcasts, Podbean, Spotify, YouTube, iHeartRadio. Our iHeartRadio numbers are going through the roof right now. It's unbelievable. Audible, Podchaser, subscribe. We got shows each and every day of the week. You're not going to want to miss them. Once we get in season, we'll be in a total rotation with the hosts. Same host each day, pretty much the same time. Josh and Aaron on Monday and Thursdays. Tom Ernestine on Mondays. Tuesdays, myself and Josh Moser from WSVN. And also Marissa Marino and Jason Sarney. Wednesday, myself and Ian Berger. Thursday, myself and Robert Burns. Also, Jason Sarney and Zach Krantz from WQAM on Thursdays. Fridays, a little bit up in the air right now. And then on the weekends, we got the pregame show, the postgame show. We're going to throw in some gambling content. We got so much stuff. We're going to cover the Dolphins like never been covered before this year with more shows, great guests, and good stuff. So be sure you subscribe to the podcast. And if you're watching on YouTube, please, for the love of God, smash that like button. Okay, now I want to kind of move off the offensive line for a second, but I do want to continue to talk about Chris Grier because I wrote this article on Tuesday night after late Dolphins. They got down to the 53, and they made the one move today, or soon to be two, once they announced who they cut for Blake Ferguson, which let me check if they've already made that announcement. So I don't know. No, they haven't made it yet. To the practice squad, Anthony McFarland, who just got here like a week ago, he made the practice squad, and also Chase and Hines. So congratulations to them. So it's the roster. I'm thinking, man, I know the roster's not as good as it was last year, but a lot of the guys he signed in the offseason didn't make the team. Didn't even make the team. So before I start this next part, look, I know we're all fans of the Dolphins. If you're listening to a show like this and we are 21 minutes in, you're a fan of the Dolphins, I'm a fan of the Dolphins, we're all fans of the Dolphins, okay? No one's not a fan. As I always say, you can be critical of your team and still love your team. No one's going to take away your fan card because there is no they. You can be a fan of the team any way you want. And with this next part I'm going to say, because I know fans get emotional when they hear critical things about their favorite team, let me be clear. I'm not saying the sky is falling. I think the Dolphins are going to go 10-7 this season. I think they're going to be in the mix for a playoff spot. I think they're going to have a fun, exciting season. So I'm not saying everything's bad. But with that said, what the hell did Chris Grier do this offseason? When Miami went down to 53 men, last offseason, Christian Wilkins got that big payday. He's gone. Fine. Raekwon Davis, they chose not to re-sign him. Fine. How are you going to replace these guys? All we heard was, okay, we're not going to just pay one guy and pay him a boatload of money. We're going to get a committee. We're going to get this glorious rotation of good players. And he went out there and signed Neville Gallimore. And he signed Jonathan Harris. And he signed Tyreek Tart. And he signed Benito Jones. And he signed Isaiah Mack. There's 5 defensive tackles. I think there are some more, but those are the 5 big ones. And we're going to have this glorious rotation. We're going to have 5 guys for less than the price of one, and we're going to have this rotation. Everyone's always going to be fresh. And this was March, April, before they did anything with Calais Campbell. I know. These 5 guys are going to have a rotation. We're going to keep guys fresh, and it's going to work. It's not Vic Fangio. It's Anthony Weaver. He wants a rotation. This glorious rotation. Well, Neville Gallimore cut, signed with the Rams today. Jonathan Harris cut on the practice squad. Isaiah Mack cut, not on the practice squad. Tyreek Tart, they cut him weeks ago. So, except for Benito Jones, they're all gone. So everyone who told me, don't worry, famous words, a lot of Dolphins fans and a lot of people in this Miami Dolphins community, don't worry, they're all gone. So where's your rotation? Yes, they signed Campbell, great, 38 years old, who's already said 35 to 40 snaps a game, then I'm done. So don't worry, though. Okay, we got Benito Jones, who's been hurt for last month, by the way. But don't worry. So none of those guys he signed back in April, May made the team. Then let's look at wide receiver. Chase Claypool, gone. Robbie Chosen, gone. Why? They were flat out awful last year. How are we going to replace these guys? Well, we're going to go sign Odell Beckham Jr. And by sign, I mean beg Odell Beckham Jr. because they gave him a contract offer. He refused it. Then Miami came back with a second offer. Odell was taking a little too long. They came back with a third offer, bidding against themselves. He eventually signed it. And we're going to draft 2 wide receivers in the draft because we want nothing to do with Chase Claypool and we want nothing to do with Robbie Chosen. We got to move on. Well, Odell Beckham's starting the year on PUP. He's not healthy. And one of the wide receivers in the draft got hurt. It happens. Okay, I'm not going to pin that on the general manager. But now you're back to Braxton Berrios as your third wide receiver. I mean, come on, man. Braxton Berrios, he's barely a fifth wide receiver in this league. So the wide receiver depth they tried to fix last year, yeah, that blew up in his face. So nothing really at wide receiver. Yeah, they got Washington. Great. He's going to be a fourth wide receiver only because he has to be a fourth because they have literally nobody else who's healthy. Jody Fortson at tight end. This red zone beast who only catches touchdowns. Yeah, we got Smith and Smythe, but Jody Fortson, red zone threat. Yeah, he cut. He didn't make the team either. He's gone. Again, wait. Let me know when Chris Grier did something in March and April that actually worked. Robert Hunt, Connor Williams gone. We already spoke about it. Isaiah Wynn might play. They had to re-sign him. He wasn't on contract. Re-sign him. Who knows if he's playing this year? Aaron Brewer, yeah, the hand. Who knows? He ain't playing week 1 probably. We know that. Jack Driscoll, gone. Cut today. Let's go on defense. Sign Anthony Walker, the linebacker. Okay, we got Anthony Walker. Linebacker depth. We didn't have it last year when we lost all those guys. Walker's a good depth piece. Hasn't practiced since the last week of July. On the team today. Who knows when he's going to be ready to play, but he's there. Shaq Barrett, remember him? Signed him this offseason. Yeah, he's not on the team. Who the hell did we sign in free agency that made the team? Well, I got 3 names. Jordan Poyer, Jordan Brooks, Jonnu Smith. Okay, those are 3 pretty good names, but we spent pretty much an entire free agency period and got 3 guys. And Benito Jones. And then we got a bunch of injured guys who might play this year, might not. Who the hell knows? I mean, it's just, and then some people say, and by some people, I mean fans and media, think this roster is better than last year's roster. How and why? Last year's roster was the best Miami Dolphins roster in like 30 years. They didn't win the Super Bowl. A lot of injuries. It hurt them. I get it. It happens. But that roster from a talent perspective with Hunt, Connor Williams, Wilkins, Raekwon, Xavier Howard, who's a borderline Hall of Famer, folks. I know Dolphins fans hate him now because he's gone, and that's how fans act. Once you're gone, they treat you like garbage. He's a borderline Hall of Famer. Brandon Jones, Elliott at safety, Andrew Van Ginkel, Jerome Baker, they're all gone. And Jordan Brooks is a nice signing, yeah. Jonnu Smith at tight end, he's going to help a lot, yeah. Jordan Poyer at safety, probably a wash from the guy who's got, but okay, we got Poyer at safety. Other than that, through free agency and the draft, I know you got chopped in the draft, but the draft's a draft. That's going to happen every year regardless. In free agency, nothing. Signed a bunch of guys who half of them are on the practice squad now, not even on the active roster. And then the other half aren't even here. Like Tart and Neville Gallimore. They got $1.8 million of dead money for Neville Gallimore. Didn't even make the 53-man roster. It's like, again, it's a 1.8. Is it a big deal? No, it's just head scratching. And you wonder why the team hasn't won a playoff game in 24 years. You wonder why Chris Grier has been here 24 years in whatever capacity, and the team hasn't won on his watch. It's because of off seasons kind of like this. Now, look, if they go out there and win the AFC East, win the Super Bowl, we can listen to this podcast back in January, February. I'll have a big laugh. Mike, you were an idiot. You were too nervous about nothing. Ha, look at you. Go for it. Throw it in my face. But, and again, I'm not saying this guy's falling. I'm predicting a 10-7 season. I think they'll be in the mix for a wild card spot. I'm not saying the team's bad. But 2 things can be true at the same time. All those things can be true. And also, the offseason was kind of a failure. And I know some fans like, well, wait and see. Let's see. No, it's a failure because the guys aren't even here to play. Those defensive linemen, one of them's here. All the rest are gone. So it's like, I don't know the mindset behind some of these decisions at times. And that's where it becomes frustrating, I think, being a fan. Sometimes, like, you want to defend your general manager. You want to defend Chris Grier. Last year's roster, man, that was a great roster he put together. It didn't work out. And I understand you can't keep everybody. I'm not naive to that fact. And I understand you can't pay everybody. Some of the guys had to go. I get it. Hunt had to go. Howard had to go. I totally understand it. But you just look back, and it's like everything he did in March and April is like pretty much just unraveled. Jody Fortson, Odell Beckham's not even healthy. I know they said he's close, and it was an organizational decision. That could be lip service for all we know. Jack Driscoll, gone. It's like they did nothing. And now you're depending on a lot of rookies. Patrick Paul in a perfect world doesn't play this year, so that's your second round pick. Chop Robinson, we're all hoping for the best there. But again, he could be the next Charles Harris. We don't know. Preseason games aren't real games. We don't know. Muhammad Kamar's a 5th round pick. He went round 5 for a reason. We hope he's good. We don't know. So we don't know there. Who else? Jaylen Wright, yeah, I'm sure he's fine, but he's a third running back. How much of an impact he's going to have on like wins and losses this year? Probably not too much. So Patrick McMorris, how much is he going to play as a rookie? Who knows? Same thing with Washington as a fourth wide receiver. It's like, yeah, the draft is a draft. We got guys, who are going to help a little this year for sure, but more 2025, 2026. But overall, man, that free agency period, March and April, not counting Agba, who they only had to sign because Shaq Barrett retired, and not counting Calais Campbell, who signed late in the summer because he's going to be 38. He didn't know what he was going to do, really. And then when he was going to sign, well, who should I sign? Well, Florida, no state income tax. I went to college in Miami, and they're pretty good. They have a chance to win. I'll sign there. Other than that, yeah, they got a tight end, and they got a linebacker. And they got the tight end upgrade the room. They got a linebacker to replace Jerome Baker. Free agency was not Chris Grier's friend this year. Again, read into that what you will. I'm not saying he's horrible. He needs to be fired tomorrow. I'm not saying that. But, again, if you can't have an honest conversation to say he struck out in March and April this year, dude struck out. And I don't need to see week one because most of the guys aren't here. So that's all for today's show. Thank you all for listening. Check out DolphinsTalk.com for a bunch of articles, videos, podcasts, a ton of content up surrounding the Dolphins. Also, Dolphins Talk Extra, patreon.com/DolphinsTalk. Sign up. We're having a lot of fun over there. It's a lot of fun, and it's only going to grow and get better as we get to the regular season. And you'll want to be in. And plus, you're going to want to sign up for the Pick'em League and the Survivor Pool, which we're going to put up soon, because the prizes for those things are going to be off the chain awesome. So you want to be signed up before we open up those leagues. Wherever you're listening to this podcast, Apple Podcast, Spotify, Podbean, Podchaser, iHeartRadio, Audible, YouTube, subscribe. I can't say enough. Hit that subscribe button. And on YouTube, smash the like button. Thank you all for listening. Have a great Wednesday night. Have a great Thursday. I got my first fantasy football draft of the year tonight. That's why I'm dropping the show so early, because I got to get out of here. Everyone, will talk to you again. And please don't forget, we must put an end to highway profanity.